You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
T-Wolves, winners of 3 in a row, winners of 5 of their last 6. They get the job done tonight in Utah, 120-113. That's your final. Wolves move to 7-4 now on the year. What's happening back in the lab? Back at it. Another Wolves postcast episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network, which, thanks to you guys, _1 sports podcast network around. That's Jack Borman, Wolves expert, NBA expert. Give him a follow on X at JRBorman13. I'm Luke Inman at Luke_Spinman. Of course, you got to follow Ben Beacon, too, host of the Locked On Timberwolves show. Remember to like and subscribe as well. Find all the video on the Locked On Wolves YouTube channel, and, of course, all the audio wherever you find your podcast. Lots to get into, Jack. Wolves win their 3rd in a row, but what can they improve on? Plus, our biggest turning point, and, of course, game MVP after every victory. But first, just off the top, Jack, not necessarily the varsity versus freshman beatdown we saw 2 games ago when, the Wolves won by 40. They put up 137. But still, when you consider it's the second night of a back-to-back on the road, no less, they come out, figure it out, and get the job done with a great second half. Give me your big picture, kind of 60-second knee-jerk reaction to kick things off. 1, maybe 2 things that stuck out the most in game 11 of 82.
Yeah, I think it was just, you look back at the schedule over the course of the season, and these are just the kind of games that you hope that you get a win. You don't really care how ugly it is, how pretty it is, just as long as you find a way to come away with a victory. And that's exactly what the Timberwolves did, coming off of a big time win, 27-point win in Sacramento last night, where the Wolves put up 144 points. They were sitting on 39 points, inside of 4 minutes to go in the first half. So it was very different from the 79-point explosion we saw against the Jazz on Friday night on that lime green atrocity of a basketball court at Target Center. But when you've got a top flight superstar that can do what he can do, the game can change in a hurry. And thankfully the Timberwolves have one of those players, and the Jazz certainly do not.
Let's get into the biggest turning point from
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
So they're actually down 4 after the first quarter, down 2, heading into halftime. And yet again, I just feel like the staple of this team when the T-Wolves are playing their best, and this goes back a couple seasons now, it's those monster third quarters coming out of the gate, throwing a haymaker. 40-25, they outscored the Jazz by 15. And from there on out, it just felt like Utah was just trying to play catch up. When was that moment or sequence, though, that really helped the Wolves start to click and kind of put it all together? Biggest turning point tonight. When was it and why?
Yeah, it was in the second quarter of this game, I thought. The Timberwolves were trailing 46-37 with 4 minutes and 4 seconds left in that second quarter. And Chris Finch took a timeout, and we couldn't really see on the broadcast, whether or not he was, really animated or not, but he must have said something in that huddle, because the Timberwolves immediately went on an 11-0 run, and they just looked significantly more physical than what they had been in the first quarter and a half of this game, where they were settling for a lot of jump shots and weren't very aggressively attacking the backboard on either end of the floor. And I just thought that they played with a lot more force, specifically getting into the paint. Got a couple of and ones, got to the free throw line, which just kind of helps chip away and slow down some of the momentum that the Jazz had at home. And I think when you can make a couple of those plays and string together some good reps on the defensive end of the floor, Timberwolves have the offensive talent to come up with those spurts in a hurry. They go on an 11-0 run over the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds to take a lead before halftime. And I think that better energy that they displayed in the final closing minutes of that second quarter, they just carried it over into the second half. And that was definitely what they needed. And I think, whomever it was that said whatever they said in that huddle around the 4-minute mark of the second quarter certainly deserves a lot of credit, because the Timberwolves were definitely a better team in the second half. But I even thought within that first half, that was kind of the turning point of this game for the Wolves to kind of find something before the halftime break.
Yeah, no doubt. Well said there. Player of the game, game MVP. Let's get into that.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
All right, tonight's game MVP, Jack. All 5 starters, which we'll talk about in double figures. Ant with 35, Julius with 25, J-Mac with 16. We'll talk about him in segment 2. But got to pick one, though. Who was it and why?
Yeah, it's got to be Anthony Edwards for me in this game. I mean, for Ant tonight, 35 points in 38 minutes. I think the best way I can describe it is that he just feels inevitable within a game in the way that I don't think he was in last year or in years past. I just think it feels like no matter what happens to Ant in the first quarter, second quarter, or third quarter, whatever it is, that he's just going to find a way to create these tidal wave type of runs that can just wash away opponents, especially inferior opponents, in a hurry. And we saw it on Friday where he was playing point guard and had the offense just humming. They start the game on a 26-6 run to start the game on Friday to break it open against the Jazz, and it wasn't ever really a game from there. And then in the second half tonight, right, much better energy coming into halftime. It wasn't necessarily a huge part of that push, but then comes out of the halftime locker room, the Wolves immediately go on an 11-0 run and another 11-0 run. He scored or assisted on the first 11 points out of the break. It becomes a 23-4 run. And he outscored the Jazz by himself 19-13 through the first 9 minutes of that third quarter. And so I think for Ant, just the way that he was able to kind of put the team on his back and certainly bring better energy himself, especially in the defensive end of the floor as well. I thought that he had some really, really strong individual efforts in perimeter isolation defense against Keontae George, picking him up full court, just making it really difficult for him, especially when he got it going early in this game. I thought Ant, his aggression and his energy level on that end of the floor was really, really strong to kind of give Jaden McDaniels a blow a little bit in terms of guarding on the perimeter, where Jaden was able to spend a decent amount of his time too guarding Lauri Markkanen, and Markkanen certainly for his standards did not have a great night either. Second time in as many games against the Wolves where he's really struggled. So I think when you think about what Ant can do, certainly offensively, the Wolves missed him while he was out, but I think the Wolves honestly might have missed his defense more than his offense while he was out, because of his ability when he locks in on that end of the floor and really takes it personally and really wants to give a strong effort on the defensive end of the floor. I mean, he's as good as any perimeter defender in it, and just an individual isolation setting. And I think the Timberwolves need more of that. And I think for Ant, he kind of goes to that more when he senses that the team just needs better energy. And, for him to be able to take it upon himself to do that on both ends of the floor in key moments, especially, second end of a back-to-back tonight, playing at altitude in Salt Lake City, is just a really mature and, professional show of leadership that I think is becoming more kind of constant for Anthony Edwards this season, and I think has been just a joy to watch. And he's really scored the ball too in an incredible clip, despite not playing all that many minutes in the games that he has played in so far this season. So just a all-around superstar effort from Anthony Edwards, and certainly just another case of him stacking good days on top of each other. So hopefully he can keep it rolling, especially after getting 3 days off here coming up.
Yeah, no doubt. Well said there. If there was another level for Anthony Edwards to find, feels like he's found it, that extra gear, kind of flipping from expert mode on Madden to superstar mode. It's just been such a treat to watch, as you mentioned. Plenty more deep dive. What can the Wolves still improve on despite this 3-game winning streak? That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, today's episode brought to us by Monarch Money. Ever go check your bank and go, where did my money go? Dining out, online shopping, entertainment, so easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. Not just another budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, spending. It's all in one place. So you stop just managing your money, and instead you start building some wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA. You're getting half off your entire first year. This episode also brought to us by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, without a doubt, the most fun I have playing daily fantasy. You can win up to 25 times your money this NBA season. Why I love it. So easy to play. All you got to do, you select 2 or more players and pick more or less on their projected stats on any given night. Plus, they now offer Apple Pay, quick and easy deposits into your account all season long. Right now, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA. First deposit match up to $100. That's promo code LockedOnNBA at prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. 100% bonus match up to $100. Last but certainly not least, this episode is brought to us by Built. Nobody likes paying rent, but if you gotta, you might as well get something for it, right? That's where Built comes in. Built's changing the game by turning your rent into things you can actually use. When you pay rent through Built, you're in flexible points, and those points can be redeemed towards hundreds of hotels, airlines, future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, you name it, they got it. Turn your rent into rewards and start making points around your neighborhood by going to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNBA. That's joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the link so they know we sent you. All right, Jack, before we get into what we'll be talking about, just some quick hitters I want to fly through here. Let's start here. Winners of 3 in a row. 5 of their last 6. This team's starting to heat up, taking care of business against some bad teams. But what do you think they can still improve on? We'll get to the good here in a second, but what do they need to get better at when they face another gauntlet or another tough stretch in the schedule against some premium AA plus kind of teams?
Yeah, I think we can get to what they can do better. I want to get through a couple of positive things before we get there, but I think for the Wolves tonight offensively, again, we've been talking about Jaden McDaniels and just kind of the evolution of his game. I think, for him tonight, it was really tough in the first 3 quarters, just 4 points on 2 of 8 shooting, really the first, quote unquote, bad offensive game we've seen from Jaden in quite some time, but Finch really trusted him in that 4th quarter. He didn't have Ant or Julius on the court for the first few minutes of the 4th quarter. And what does Jaden McDaniels do? He serves as the number 1 option on the offensive end of the floor, scores 9 points on 4 shots, and then once Ant comes back in the game, has no problem just making sure that Ant gets the ball and he gets out of the way, and he just continues to go back to a complementary role playing off of Ant. And I think, I'll get to it a little bit later, but I think Jaden's ability to just scale his game up and down within the flow of an individual game based on who else is on the court. Like, okay, if it's mostly a bench lineup, I need to be more of a scorer versus when Ant's on the floor, when Julius is on the floor, I need to defer to them and get mine if I have a really good matchup or they're giving me the ball, whatever the case may be. I just think his awareness in that regard has been really strong. And, I just think, again, for the Timberwolves, their overall awareness, I thought, was excellent tonight, and that the 3-ball really was not falling for most of the night. The Timberwolves had their worst shooting offensive or worst 3-point shooting first half of the game this season. They were just 5 of 19. 26%. And it was kind of part of a larger theme where Ant shot the ball pretty well, and then everyone else struggled in the sense that Ant was 5 of 9 from 3 tonight. Everyone else was 5 of 24, so 20.8%. I think, but what did they do? They realized, all right, the 3-point shot's not necessarily falling, so what do we need to do? Let's get downhill, let's get into the paint, and let's just attack a team without its top rim protector for the season, where they're kind of weak on the interior part of the part of the defense. And I thought Rudy Gobert was a really important part of that as well. Rudy had 9 of the Timberwolves' first 13 points, ended up having 14 points. And I think Rudy can kind of make up for, Jaden not necessarily having his best stuff in the first 3 quarters. I thought that Rudy did an excellent job of kind of flashing strong in the middle of the floor, attacking the offensive glass, and just finishing when his teammates gave him opportunities, right? It kind of felt like, those games where Steph Curry's like 7 of 7 or 8 of 8 from 3 in the first half, and the whole internet's like, oh my God, it's one of those Steph games. Like, we need to tune in.
Here we go. Buckle in.
I feel like we get one of those Rudy games where all of a sudden he just like makes every layup that he has, and it's just kind of fun to watch. But yeah, for the Timberwolves, outscored Utah 54-36 in the paint tonight, and they shot 27 of 44 in the paint, 61.5%. And I thought they did a great job, not only at the rim, but in that kind of short mid-range floater area. I thought that those shots can be really tricky. League average from there this season is about 43%. The Wolves have been below that at about 40.5%. But tonight for the Wolves, they were hovering right around 50% for the majority of the game, which is a really good place to be. And then, also too, when they didn't get all the way to the rim, they got fouled quite a bit. And the Timberwolves had their best free throw shooting game of the season tonight. They made 26 free throws on 28 attempts. It's 93%, so best percentage of the season. And they tied a season high in made free throws as well. And it's part of a positive trend, I think, for the Wolves. So it's the third game in their last 5 where they've had a really strong free throw rate. Anything above 25% free throw rate. So if you take total free throws attempted and divide it by total field goals attempted, anything above 25% is really strong. And the Wolves have been there the last several games, and that's certainly what you want to see. And that continued again tonight with a 31.5% free throw rate. And Julius deserves his flowers too. 12 of 13 from the free throw line. I just think kind of having another guy who can be really physical on the interior is super important besides Ant. You want a couple of things the Wolves can do better?
Please. I'm dying.
Yeah, I think just defensive rebounding, right? The Timberwolves 26th, so 5th worst in the league at 66.5% of available defensive rebounds they've been collecting. And tonight, the Jazz had 16 offensive rebounds for 22, for 22 second chance points again. 22 second chance points, just a mark that certainly needs to be better for the Timberwolves when you consider the fact that this is a team that plays pretty big. I mean, they're small forward is 7 feet tall and is playing off the ball more this year. So I think the more that he can get in there and help rebound, I think is going to be really important. And the Timberwolves on the season allowing 15 second chance points per game, but that's been higher over the last 5, up towards 17, 18. And the league average is right around 15.5. So again, anything over 20 is a really tough game. And the Wolves defensive rebound percentage in this game tonight, just not necessarily where they need it to be. When you consider, again, Utah without Walker Kessler and an offensive rebound rate of 31.4%. So, it just needs to be better. I'd like to see the Timberwolves be above that 70% defensive rebound percentage mark, considering their personnel. But hopefully that's something that they can improve. And then the bench scoring, that's, I think, something that we'll be talking about here.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's get into that. Good segue. What we'll be talking about tomorrow.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Here's what we'll be talking about. Wolves have won 3 in a row, 5 of their last 6. And in large part, as you just kind of rattled off, it's a lot of the starters, right? Bench still figuring things out, still tweaking things, still tinkering, if you will. But the starters, man, they've shouldered the load, kind of carried this thing, all 5 in double digits again tonight, scoring-wise. I don't know what the stats and analytics say, Jack, but just to my naked eye, it's got to be a top 10, if not top 5, starting 5 in the NBA offensively.
Yeah, it certainly feels that way. I mean, the Timberwolves over the last 5 games have had an offensive rating of about 126.6, which is second in the NBA. And their starting lineup was scoring 87 points a game. That's 6th in the NBA. And so for the Wolves tonight, again, 120 points. They scored 106 points from the starters. And I just think the Timberwolves need to try to find better lineup combinations that I think can enable the bench to get in a little bit more of a rhythm. I think the minutes have been pretty inconsistent from night to night. Obviously, you see that comment there about Rob. And for the bench tonight, just 14 points on 5 of 16 shooting and 2 of 10 from 3. I know that Nas has had a really up and down start to the season, and obviously with his personal situation, I think the team is going to continue to give him grace and support him. But outside of him, I mean, it's just kind of been a mystery box of who steps up and who doesn't. And I think for the Timberwolves to have Bones Highland on the bench or a guy like Johnny Juzang on the bench, I think it would be interesting to me to see, if they just try to try to just put one of the other guys in for a night to see if they can give them a little bit more juice off the bench, because the Timberwolves just haven't gotten enough from their bench for the majority of the season. So we'll see if that's something that they can continue to kind of work on. But again, when you've got a guy like Anthony Edwards, you've got a guy like Julius Randle, you've got a number 3 like Jaden McDaniels, I think that the Timberwolves will continue to play a lot more blended lineups where they can ride, one or two guys in a specific lineup setting to handle the load offensively. But it's just a lot riding on those 3 guys to score right now.
Well said there. Fantastic points as always. T-Wolves build some momentum. 3rd win in a row, 120-113. That's your final in Utah. 7-4 now on the year, starting to creep back up past 500. Much love to all you guys, all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. All you guys coming in the chat with us from game to game as well. Make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already, and go follow this guy, Elite NBA Mind, at JR Borman 13. We'll catch you Friday back at home against the Kings. That's a 7 p.m. tip. Until then, signing out.